Hi everyone, in this session I'm going to show you to make a purchase return for purchase invoice and as well as item receipt. The reason that you'll be making it can be vary from situation to situation. One thing that needs to be considered while making return against the item receipt will be that the items should not have been sold, neither it is sales returned. Then only you will be able to make purchase return against the item receipt. Else you will not be able to make. In that scenario, what you can do, if you have already sold the items and it is returned from the customer and you want to return to the vendor, then you can return the purchase invoice and you have to handle it, the stock via inventory adjustment. So now let's take a scenario that you have received the stock after 10 or 15 days, you found out the stock is not good quality or something might have happened or the supplier is wrongly selected, anything. So now you want to reverse the invoice and reverse the stock. So here I'm going to take this PO number. Okay, I want to find out the purchase invoice number for it. This is the PO number. I have gone to the purchase invoice screen. I filtered this is the PO number and this is the invoice. So now I'll go for returning this purchase invoice. That is basically reversing the accounts payable. I'm going to the procurement and I'm going to purchase return module. This is my purchase return module. Okay, where I can see all my previously created transactions. I'm clicking on create new. So first thing that I will return is I will return the accounts payable. That is basically reduce my accounts payable against this invoice. This is the invoice. So 127. Here I select the transaction type is the purchase return screen. I will select transaction type as purchase invoice. Then I will select reference number 127. It's coming up with the PO number 240. Okay. And once you select this, entire information of that purchase invoice has popped up. Now we have to, as this invoice is not paid and I want to make, I cannot refund it, I'll select debit note. Basically debit note will make this invoice as closed, so no more balance to be paid for this invoice. I'll link to invoice yes and apply to invoices as yes. This is very mandatory option. If this invoice is paid, if it is paid, then you will select return type as debit and link to invoice will be no and apply to invoice will be no. Then what will happen? System will create a debit note and that debit note you can use it to settle another invoice when you create for this vendor. Clear? Let's say you have dealt with you want to refund back the cash. So you can select refund if you want to give back the cash. But here we're not giving back the cash. We are getting a debit note and we are closing the invoice because it's unpaid. Memo reversing payables. Okay, this is the date where it will impact your tax reports as well as your ledgers. And these are the item materials. I'm reversing it full with accounts payable. The tax should be selected. I think it was brought with VAT 0, so no tax. Of tax was not applicable. It was a foreign purchase. If it's a local purchase, then the respective tax will come here by default. And even if you want, you can change the tax code from here. So now I'm clicking on add. So you're reversing your purchase invoice. If you see, it is added. And now if you just go and see this purchase invoice status and the balance, I'm going to the purchase invoice transaction report screen and I'm refreshing it. You see, it will become paid and the balance will be 0. It's not paid, but it's an indication that it has been reversed or it returned. Okay, and here you will get the return reference number. So if you filter by this criteria that it is returned, then you'll come to whether it is paid or not paid. So it is basically returned. Now we have returned the accounts payable. Now we have to reverse back the item receipt also. So now to find out the item receipt number, I will go to item receipt module. With the same PO number, I will find out its bill number or item receipt bill number. So the PO number, it belongs to 2021 session. So PO number will be 240. And this is the bill receipt number. So now again, I'll go to the purchase return module, procurement purchase return. Here I'll select transaction type as item receipt. Okay, and then select transaction reference number as 257. As I said to you, this you can return only if the materials are not sold. Even after selling, you have made a sales return, you will not be able to return in the purchase return. So now here you will show only one option, that is return, because you are reversing the stock. Nothing to do with the payables, because payables have already been written in the previous transaction memo. You are reversing the stock, or you can write anything. Clear? You're reversing the full stock, or if you want to refer to the partial stock, it is also okay. It's up to you. Click add. In this way, you have reversed the purchase invoice, the payables, and as well as the stock. So now you have nothing to pay for this vendor. This vendor has nothing to be paid because the invoice was unpaid and you have reversed. Now you can create a fresh new order and make the necessary required changes. Clear? If you want to modify this PO and recreate another receipt and invoice, then you can, instead of reversing it, you can delete the purchase invoice. That is basically void the purchase invoice instead of reversing it. And you can void the item receipt, change the required information in the PO. In this PO, open in edit mode, change the required information, save it, and again you can make a new item receipt and new invoice. So these are two different things that has to be followed. One is returning it, you're actually returning the material. Other is correcting the PO, where you have to void. If item receipt is already created, invoice is already created, you have to void those two documents first and then edit the PO. It is editable. If item receipt, any material is sold, then you cannot void the item receipt. In that scenario, you have to cancel the whole scenario, adjust the stock, and then again come back and make another new document or new PO. Thank you for watching the video.